It says I'm live. Am I live? Let's look over at my phone. Make sure that volume's turned down. I was just watching the old McDLT commercial with Jason Alexander in it, where he's singing and dancing down the street because he's so excited about this new hamburger that McDonald's has, where the hot stays hot and the cool stays cool. So it's George from Seinfeld. White Mario says, "Who are you? Who? Well, I'm Alan Belk. That's what the name of the channel is, isn't it?" But the question is, who are you? So I have my theories. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started unboxing this figure. This is the Frag-Viper, the Cobra Frag-Viper. And this is a figure that I had, the original one, when I was a kid. I got him, I think it was my 13th birthday party. So I was at the tail end of my childhood collecting days. White Mario says, guess what? Rouge Haunt was dead. Was past tense? Not anymore? Is that what you're trying to tell me? Yeah, what happened with that? I have no idea what happened with that. Because like one day, your channel just wasn't there anymore. And then one day this channel was the other White Mario, the Blue Mario channel wasn't there anymore. So I don't know. Are they out to get you? Is that it? You know, you're not really, just because you're paranoid doesn't mean they're not really out to get you. I'm just pointing that out. And I'm getting ahead of myself with opening him up. We need to talk some about the packaging. So the back of the packaging has here a few of these Frag-Vipers, because they are army builders. And they're in front of some kind of freaky statue that looks like some kind of eldritch abomination. Is this something from the cartoon? Because I don't remember it. And I certainly don't remember it from the comic book. But it looks like some kind of creature. Maybe it was the creature from Destro's basement, if you remember that episode. I don't know. But it's this freaky looking gold statue. And you got the Frag-Viper here throwing his grenade. I believe that this is based off of the sport of Highlight, which is a very dangerous sport. So they have grenade throwers that are trained to use Highlight techniques to throw grenades. And they've got this device with this backpack and the glove where it's supposed to just dispense grenades into their glove, and they throw them at the enemy. And then you can see close-ups here of the helmet, which the original Frag-Viper had a bulbous helmet somewhat like this, but it was permanently attached to the figure. You could not see where the face was underneath, and it's a good thing too, because this would have just terrified kids of the 1980s with that weird zombified face where it looks like there was some kind of surgery done to it. And there's a nice portrait of the Frag-Viper over here on the side. This is figure number 153. Last episode, I opened up Dial Tone. I forgot to look at the number. And I opened that up at my mom's house. So I put the packaging in the recycling at my mom's house. So I don't have that packaging anymore. And in fact, I forgot the figure over at my mom's house. So I'll have to pick that up next time I'm over there. So anyway, get some of these accessories out of here. We got that Highlight glove. You can see there they've got elements of it painted in silver. The original one was just all black. And then this nice thick cord that's supposed to be able to dispense these grenades. But it still doesn't look big enough to dispense the grenades. The original one certainly didn't look big enough to dispense the grenades. But they can only make the grenades so small, you know. And here is a grenade with a smoke trail attached to it. Now, on the package, it looks like they originally intended that to be, it almost looks like it's translucent there. I don't know if maybe that's just the way that it's lit or something like that. But it's just kind of matte gray there. We're going to set that aside for now. And there's no loose grenades that come with this guy, which kind of is a shame. I'd like to see just what one of these grenades looks like without a smoke trail attached to it. And then he's got 2 of these little mini Uzi type guns that it's the same ones that Shockwave came with. I happen to have Shockwave over here still. So Shockwave had little holsters that would attach these to the sides. I don't know if this guy has holsters yet, because I haven't got him out of the package yet. It looks like he does. So that's good. And then the backpack, and you see the backpack here, has lots of those little grenades in it. But they did not paint in the grenades on the backpack. You can see that the grenade has red detailing on it on its own, but it doesn't have those on the backpack. And considering the attention to detail that they put into these G.I. Joe classified figures these days, I have to assume that's on purpose. And I have to assume what that means, how we should interpret this, is the red comes up when the grenade is live. So this is a grenade that's about to explode, but they're still all dark when they're on the backpack. So that's probably why that's the case. And then we have the Frag-Viper's helmet. And that's actually taped into the package underneath where this hose is. And geez, I hope that hose is supposed to be removable because I accidentally yanked it loose. And then the helmet itself. Is it a separate helmet or is it a completely different head? It is indeed a separate helmet. There it is on my thumb. So it is a removable helmet. So that's good. And it looks kind of vaguely like Ant-Man. It looks more like Ant-Man now, since Ant-Man has a full faceplate in the movie. And, they want to make the comics like the movies now. But there it is with the hose back attached to it. And I'm not sure what purpose that helmet serves specifically for a guy who throws grenades. But I'm sure there's some kind of purpose for it. We can talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But you can see it's got the Cobra sigil in the insert on the inside, as Cobra figures tend to do. We can go ahead and put that back in there now. And there was no rubber tabs or anything holding this guy into the package. He just came right out, so that's nice. And here is the Frag-Viper free from his plastic prison. Now, as I remember, the Frag-Viper had like a pistol holster on his leg, but the original one did not come with any weapons other than his grenade throwing gear. So it's good that they gave him some backup weapons here that he can have, when he gets into kind of, I guess, more close quarters where like throwing grenades around is not like the safest way to fight a battle. But you can see that the gun fits in his hand quite nicely. So that's good. Now, I'm pretty sure that this guy reuses a lot of the same parts that we saw already on Stalker and that we would have seen on several other figures. I'm pretty sure the torso is a Stalker torso, but I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure without comparing anything. And then he's got a bunch of web gear, and he's got this sash around his torso here. And so that makes him look almost kind of more ceremonial. I suspect that the original Frag-Viper figure, I suspect that one was one of the figures that was originally designed to be a Cobra Law character, but wound up being abandoned. That concept wound up being abandoned. So they wound up putting a bunch of those characters in with, and a lot of the vehicle concepts wound up being reworked into the Iron Grenadiers, and a lot of the figure concepts wound up getting reworked into the Iron Grenadiers. Like the pilot that came with the Annihilator is one that, like, you can tell just by looking at him how he would have fit in with Cobra Law. But I kind of suspect that the Frag-Viper was another one, and that maybe this helmet was originally supposed to be a little more. You can see how it's kind of vaguely insectoid. You can see how this might fit in with the Cobra Law aesthetic. So the helmet fits on his head nice and snugly. For a second, almost too snugly. I almost thought it wasn't going to go on at all, but I managed to get it on. And then this cord looks like it's supposed to wrap around the back, so I'm guessing it plugs into the backpack somehow. But I'm not seeing a peg hole or anything like that. Maybe it plugs into his web gear somewhere. I don't know where this hose is supposed to plug in, but it's clearly supposed to plug into, something. I don't know. Maybe it's just supposed to look like it plugs into his backpack. The backpack doesn't seem to open up or anything like that either. It seems like it's just a solid. Oh, there's a hole at the very top, and that seems like an awkward place to put that. But I guess that's where it goes. So that's how that's supposed to go together, I guess. I'll look at it on the back of the package. Yeah, I guess that's what it's supposed to do. It looks like it might supposed to go under the sash. It looks like they've got it placed under the sash. Yeah, it plugs into the top. I don't really like that very much. But yeah, he's got this web gear. It looks like it's got like little devices at the top there. It could be communication devices or something. The original figure did not have web gear. He just had several of these sashes that attached like a kind of crisscross over his body. But I guess they wanted this guy to look a little more tactical. But you got to have at least one sash on there because that makes him a Frag-Viper. But they did make all his web gear blue, which kind of it suggests the sashes, but it's a little more practical. So this thing looks like it's going to take some doing to get onto him. This is a flexible sort of plastic. It's probably like a little more rigid than I would like it to be at the wrist piece, and I kind of worry that over time that's going to get stressed out if you take it off and put it onto him too much. So probably what's going to happen is at the end of this video, I'm probably going to put this back onto him. It's probably going to be when I leave it on him forever and just never take it off. I think that's probably going to be the best thing to do. And if I can get the hand on here, I think the best thing to do is to get the hand on there first and then to kind of clamp this thing around his wrist. If I pull it open where it's got the slot there, and there we've got the highlight glove onto him. So there's what he looks like with that. And I probably should have done the articulation before I started all this. And you see there's these two small holes here. Now I'm thinking that this metal in between here is not supposed to be like literally there. I'm thinking that that's supposed to be just something that they put on there to add a little more stability to it. And probably what they should have done is molded this in clear plastic and then painted the silver parts onto it. Like, even if they had to make this a separate piece, I think that would have been better. But it does have these two holes here. So that means you have some options, I think, as to where you place the grenade. Now, it does seem like the peg is kind of tight here. It looks like there's a little bit of plastic flash that's sticking out. There we go. But you can have it so it's a little deeper within the glove like that. Or we can move it out to this slightly further one. So if you had a whole squad of these guys and you wanted them to be throwing their grenades, you could have like different poses for where the grenade is at. But it seems like that the peg is a bit snug on either of these holes. So you're going to have to work it in there. But there it is. There it is attached to that. Well, it was attached into that second one. So it's just going to be stubborn. And I can see looking at it where like it's kind of actually warped the hole a little bit where I tried to press it in. Oh, this sounds filthy. It stretched out the hole when I was trying to press it in because it was too big for the hole. Go ahead, make your jokes. Yeah. But yeah. So that's what it should look like, theoretically. And then we got this hose. What did I drop now? I heard something fall. And I've just got such a big stack of stuff down here at this point. Oh, it's this. Duh. This thing fell out again. I'm just not going to fool with that anymore. It's a nice looking effect. And I appreciate that they tried to do something with it. But, like, the holes are just too small. So I'm going to have to, like, heat them up with, like, a hairdryer or something like that to try to get it in there. So yeah, there's the hose, and it's a nice flexi hose. And I guess you're supposed to pretend like it doesn't have these gaps in it, that those aren't there. But those do help the hose move around a little bit. But yeah, these hoses are supposed to feed the grenades into the highlight glove, and then he's supposed to throw them out. This guy was a fairly obscure choice for a G.I. Joe character, I think. I still think there were other characters, like, you know, before and after him that would have been kind of like more well-known Cobra troopers. Like the Toxo-Viper, I think would have been a good choice. I'm not saying he was a bad choice, but I am saying that Frag-Viper is a deep cut as far as G.I. Joe characters go. And he's one that, like, obviously I remember the Frag-Viper. He was a figure that I had when I was a kid, and I enjoyed the character. But he's not one that, like, I don't think he's out there in the public unconscious the same way that, like, you know, say the Toxo-Viper is. I think, like, Toxo-Viper is one of those characters that if you'd seen him, even if you didn't recognize him, you'd know who he was. You know what I mean? Like, even if you didn't remember him, you would still remember him. Like, you're like, oh yeah, like the Leaky Suit Brigade. Like, it kind of stands out a little bit. Frag-Vipers, I don't remember getting that much play in the comics or the cartoon. Now, of course, Sunbow would have been done by then. And that's the G.I. Joe cartoon that everybody has such fond memories of. Deke, not so much, but he might have made it onto some episodes of Deke. I honestly don't remember. I didn't watch a whole lot of Deke. So, but yeah, so you can get him in some cool grenade throwing poses. So that's neat. So anyway, I probably should have talked about the articulation before I put all this gear onto him, but I just didn't think about it. So I'm going to take all this stuff off of him now. And I'll just have to put it back on before I do the thumbnail. And in fact, I think I'm going to take a sash off too, just because he's already got a lot of crap on him. So we'll take the sash off and not have to worry about having to move that around at all. So the head sculpt on this guy is really cool. And I'd mentioned that when I was talking about the packaging, is that he's got this face that's just so creepy. And there's like this body horror aspect to this guy where, like, he's got this kind of grayish sort of skin color. It's not like a normal human skin color. It's very washed out, like almost like a zombie or something. Like, this guy's gone through some serious shit to get made into a Frag-Viper. Of all things, to go through serious shit to get made into, like a cannon fodder, highlight glove, you know, grenade throwing guy. And you can see there's like scars around his eyes, but they're like deliberate scars. You can tell they're not like necessarily made to be like, you know, scars that you would receive in battle. Like, somebody did surgery on this guy. Somebody cut his eyelids open at the sides so they could get in, and like, it looks like they replaced his eyeballs with like bionic eyes, and they're creepy looking eyes. But the thing that really makes them creepy looking is, now that I'm looking at it up close, it almost looks like they're sculpted that way. Like, he doesn't even have like eyeballs He's just got cameras kind of like implanted in there. Maybe he doesn't even need to blink anymore because his eyes don't water because he's just got these mechanical devices in there. Maybe they took out his tear ducts because the last thing they want is moisture, like where there's all this technological doodads that they've got. And you can see that like the hood over on this side anyway, it's not on the other side. It's not even symmetrical. The hood's got like this kind of clamp holding it on there. Like, is this even meant to be removed at this point? Can he even take this off? Is he just a cyborg like automaton? Does he even think for? There's all kinds of like uncomfortable questions that this surgery brings up, and this whole sort of body horror aspect to this figure that makes me think that maybe Cobra is an even more sinister organization than we even suspected. There's some really dark stuff going on with this figure. So it's like I said, I'm glad I couldn't see his face when I was a kid, because if I could see this face, this is like the stuff of nightmares here, I gotta say. And I think it's really cool. I think it's pretty neat that they did that they put a lot of thought into, again, of all characters, the Frag-Viper. Like, I'm guessing it's one of those things where, like, whoever designed this figure was probably had the figure when he was a kid, was a fan of it, was like, we got to do the Frag-Viper and we got to do it right. And the rest of the people on the team were like, what's a Frag-Viper? And he's like, shut up. Bobby Wald is here and he says, I love how his head makes me think that Dr. Mindbender actually does human experimentation, right? See, that's what I'm talking about. That's the horror of this character. Maybe I should have opened him up when I was doing Halloween stuff instead of Crystal Ball. Maybe he's a little more horrifying even than Chris is. Chris is just a guy in a funny outfit at the end of the day. This is a guy that's like Frankenstein, basically. He's been maybe that's something else. Maybe this isn't even like a guy who is living. Maybe this is a guy who was dead, and Cobra was picking troops up off the battlefield and being like, let's rebuild this guy, and we can still get some more use out of him. We'll make him into like grenade throwing cannon fodder. But he made for a really impressive looking action figure. And like I said, the original Frag-Viper, I think the original Frag-Viper, I liked that figure when I was a kid at least. But to me, he never really seemed like a figure that like the Snow Serpent, for example, is a character that has a lot of fan following. Or the Eels, or some of the other like Techno Vipers even seem to have their own sort of cult following. But Frag-Viper, I rarely ever heard anybody talking about the original figure. Even though, like I said, I liked the original figure. He was one of the last ones that I had when I was a kid. So I did buy like more G.I. Joe figures later on, but I think that was when I'd gotten more into my adult collector phase. And I was really only buying like figures if either it was a character that I remembered from the old G.I. Joe, like Snake Eyes or Storm Shadow or Stalker or whoever, or if it was just like a really impressive looking figure that I just couldn't say no to. And that was in the 90s, so those were starting to become kind of few and far in between. But like they managed to take the Frag-Viper and make him into a character that not only has a little more tactical of a look than the original figure, because like I said, the original one I kind of think was like a reuse of a Cobra Law concept, and even still, to me, he looked a little ceremonial to me with all those sashes and everything. And look at this, I forgot to put the sash back on him, and he looks pretty cool that way. He doesn't really need the sash, I don't think. It's good that they have the sash on there, because like I say, that's something that was distinct about the original Frag-Viper. But now that I have it off of him, I kind of don't know if I want to put it back onto him. I already put all this gear back onto him, and he looks pretty cool like this anyway. I'll go ahead and put it back onto him so I can have it for the thumbnail. But I'm not going to take the whole thing apart. I'm just going to see if I can just slide all this onto him while he's still got all this gear on, and hopefully I can. I should take the helmet off. I think that'll make it a little easier. But like I said, that helmet fits on there nice and snug. And I'm glad, that's not a complaint. I'm glad that it fits on there snugly because I don't want to have to deal with this thing falling off all the time. I would much rather have a helmet that's a little too snug. But what I would advise to anybody is be mindful of his nose, because if the helmet's that snug, there's a chance that it could create some paint rub on the nose when you take it off and put it on. So do be careful with that. That's definitely something we want to be careful with. And like I said, he's got some extra weapons, so he can still be useful in a fight, even once he's out of grenades or once he's into like a more close quarters situation where you don't want grenades blowing up all around you. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the Frag-Viper. He's a pretty cool figure, but I think he's going to be a little more niche. It's going to be more like the hardcore G.I. Joe collectors that got to have every figure that want to get this guy, I think. And, you know, maybe some of the kids that they're collecting this with their dads, you know, they might think he's pretty cool. Hopefully they think he's pretty cool. So anyway, but that's it for the Frag-Viper. And we still got a lot more G.I. Joe to get with. So the next figure in my stack is Footloose. So back to a good guy again for the next episode. So I'm going to try to alternate as best I can. It's probably not going to be on like every episode, but looking at the stack of basic figures I have, the stack right now is Footloose, Major Blood, Snake Eyes, speaking of 90s figures, Cobra Commander in the armored suit, Mainframe Wetsuit, and the Grim Viper. So I'm thinking Grim Viper, I'll probably swap him out with you know, move him in Wetsuit and Mainframe around. Man, the 86 G.I. Joe line has been getting a lot of love lately. You know, we opened up Dial Tone, and then we got Mainframe and Wetsuit, and of course Beachhead and General Hawk. Those were like some of the earlier figures, so we already opened them up a while back. Leatherhead, we did not, or Leatherneck. Sorry, I'm thinking about Ninja Turtles again. Leatherneck wasn't too long ago. But yeah, we still got and Sci-Fi came out, but I didn't get Sci-Fi yet. So Sci-Fi will just have to wait till later. I already got like a ton of G.I. Joe stuff, so somebody had to wait. It was going to be Sci-Fi, so I'll probably pick up Sci-Fi when I see him at retail, or if I see him on Amazon or Big Bad Toy Store for cheap. I'll probably buy them sometime around then. And then we've got a lot of other, like, you know, deluxe sets and 2-packs and things like that. Because I got Sergeant Slaughter and Mercer, and I got the Desert Scorpion 2-pack with the Desert Scorpion and his Desert Scorpion, and and of course Law and Order. So another 86 figure. So yeah. That is pretty much it. No, actually, no, he was 87, wasn't he? He was 87, yeah. So, but that is pretty much it for the Frag-Viper. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure that you like and subscribe and all the other fun YouTube stuff down below. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about the Frag-Viper. And maybe this was one that you actually had when you were a kid. And, you know, what kind of adventures you had him get into. I think by this time they were doing so many Cobra army builders that I'd kind of stopped trying to army build any of the army builders. Like I still had plenty of the blue guys from when I was a kid. So those were like my basic Cobra troopers. And I would just have a guy like this to be like a guy who would be part of the squad. So I would put together squads with various types of specialty troopers, and then maybe work in, you know, some of the blue Cobra soldiers or Cobra officers, or, you know, some of the Vipers or something like that. But guys like this, or the Techno Viper or the Toxo Viper, you know, those people, I'd buy like one and he would be like the one member of the team that had that specialty. But that's just me. That's just how I did it. I'm sure the rich kids could afford to, if they were into the Frag-Viper, just buy like a whole, 2 dozen Frag-Vipers. I'm sure somebody was crazy enough to do that. Anyway, but that's it for this episode. Next episode, we will be back with Footloose. Talk to you later. Bye.